For years, tensions between the United States and Venezuela have simmered beneath the surface. Those tensions stem from political ideology, economic sanctions, oil interests, and Venezuela's close relationships with U.S. rivals like Russia, China, and Iran. By late 2025, those tensions escalated into the most serious confrontation between the two countries in modern history. Venezuela sits on some of the largest proven oil reserves in the world. For Washington, that reality has always made the country strategically important. At the same time, the U.S. government has long accused Venezuela's leadership, under President Nicolas Maduro, of corruption, human rights abuses, election manipulation, and cooperation with drug trafficking organizations. Throughout 2025, the United States increased pressure on the Venezuelan government. American naval forces, warships, aircraft, and Marines were deployed to the Caribbean region. U.S. officials publicly described these movements as part of counternarcotics and regional security operations, but critics argued the scale of the buildup suggested preparation for something much larger. The U.S. also expanded sanctions, targeted Venezuelan oil exports, and continued to offer financial rewards for information leading to the arrest of President Maduro, whom the U.S. accused of narcoterrorism. Venezuelan leaders responded by warning that any U.S. military action would be treated as an act of war and promised resistance. In early January 2026, events reached a breaking point. U.S. Special Operations Forces carried out a sudden and highly coordinated raid inside Caracas, Venezuela's capital. According to U.S. officials, the operation's objective was to capture Nicolas Maduro and key members of his inner circle. Within hours, the U.S. government announced that Maduro had been taken into U.S. custody. The operation was limited in scope but unprecedented in impact. It was not a full-scale invasion involving ground troops occupying the country, but it was a direct military incursion into a sovereign nation's capital. The U.S. did not declare war, and Congress did not issue formal authorization beforehand. Washington justified the operation by arguing that Maduro was not a legitimate head of state, but rather the leader of a criminal organization involved in drug trafficking that directly harmed the United States. U.S. officials claimed the action was necessary to protect American security, restore democracy in Venezuela, and disrupt criminal networks operating across the region. Another key factor openly discussed by U.S. leaders was oil. The U.S. administration stated that stabilizing Venezuela would require restoring oil production and rebuilding infrastructure, with American companies playing a major role. Supporters of the operation argued this would help global energy markets, while critics said it confirmed long-standing accusations that oil was a central motive. The international reaction was swift and divided. Several U.S. allies expressed concern or condemnation, arguing the operation violated international law and the United Nations Charter. Countries across Latin America warned that the action could destabilize the region and set a dangerous precedent. Russia, China, and others accused the United States of acting unilaterally and undermining global norms. Inside Venezuela, the situation became chaotic. Power outages, protests, and uncertainty spread as questions arose over who would govern the country next. The United States quickly recognized an interim leadership and called for new elections. While Maduro's supporters denounced the move as a coup in the weeks following the operation, U.S. forces reduced some of their visible presence but maintained significant military assets nearby. Negotiations, sanctions adjustments, and diplomatic pressure continued as Venezuela's future remained uncertain. What began as sanctions and political pressure ultimately turned into direct military action. Supporters of the U.S. move argue it removed a dangerous criminal leader and opened the door to democratic reform. Critics argue it was an illegal intervention driven by power and resources. As of now, the long-term consequences are still unfolding. The situation in Venezuela remains fragile, global tensions remain high, and the operation has reignited debate over the limits of U.S. power in the modern world. The story of U.S. involvement in Venezuela is no longer just about diplomacy. It is now a defining moment in 21st century geopolitics, one that will shape regional stability and international relations for years to come.